question. What time is Yizkor? I've been the senior rabbi of our community for almost 2 years now, which means I've been the senior rabbi through 6 Yizkor services before today. So this question, what time is Yizkor, comes up most specifically in advance of Yom Kippur Day services. Rabbi Dr. Ron Wolfson writes, when I was a kid in Omaha, Yizkor seemed to be the climax of Yom Kippur Day. The shul was crowded with people all day long, but it was packed at Yizkor time. There was something about this mysterious, awe-inspiring service that drew people. It was the pull of remembrance. Here at Adat Shalom, I found this question, what time is Yizkor, to be a difficult question to answer. And I think that's because the question is on the one hand about time, and on the other hand about a different sort of time. Let me see if I can explain what I mean. My dad, may his memory be a blessing, was a person who was always, kind of annoyingly, early. He was always early, which meant that if you were expecting him to arrive at 11:30, or if he was expecting you, he'd show up at like 11:10, or he'd call you at 11:10 just to make sure you were on your way over. And I feel like he got even more early as he got older. Like when I was a kid, he would only be like 5 or 10 minutes early. He just wanted to be sure that he was on time, or that we as kids were on time. But as he got older, he got earlier. It was his way of expressing his impatience and his eagerness. He was ready to go. And what that meant was, you should be too. From my dad, I learned the value of being punctual, the importance of being on time. And from my dad, I learned the habit of being early. I learned to associate an extra few minutes with a feeling of preparedness, a feeling of calm. And so, as I continue being and becoming the senior rabbi of our community, I continue to think about this question. What time is Yizkor? What it means and what the answer means. So the prevailing opinion, as I have gathered from many conversations with diverse constituencies within our community, is that whatever time Yizkor is, you should tell the community that Yizkor will take place sometime before that. And this is because, as we learned at our Shabbaton Tish this year, there is a particular custom among the Jewish people of arriving, let's say, not precisely on time. Now, of course, this varies along a continuum, with some subcultures within the Jewish people being very precise with time. I'm thinking of a person I knew years ago, the shamus of his minyan, who literally watched the second hand on the clock to cue the start of services. And there are other subcultures within the Jewish people being very interpretive with time, perhaps like our understanding here in LA of a Persian Jewish wedding. So there's quite a continuum within the Jewish people. But let's say roughly what we can expect is that Jewish Standard Time is at least a few minutes behind your standard smartphone clock time. And of course, you got to factor in a couple extra minutes to find parking. So the prevailing opinion here at Adat Shalom is that whatever time Yizkor is, you should tell the community that Yizkor will take place sometime before that. Now, of course, the logical follow-up question is, how much time before that? Now that question, after almost 2 years as senior rabbi of this community, I'm still figuring out how to answer. I think the correct answer is something like a lot of time. I'll have to revisit this topic, God willing, in 5 years or so, when I can share with you all what I've continued to learn. But for today, what my understanding is that you need to tell people a time for Yizkor that they will be sure to arrive before it begins, even with Jewish Standard Time factored in, even with time to find parking factored in, so that on Yizkor Day, people will arrive after a flurry of rush to make sure to make it to shul, and be sure to arrive in time to not miss even a moment, to not miss even a breath of this climax of our holiday, of this awe-inspiring service. We don't want anyone in our Adat Shalom family to miss even a moment of remembrance. My teacher, Rabbi Eli Shochet, my first teacher of Jewish law, taught us minhag kahalacha, that Jewish custom can be just as binding as Jewish law. Our tradition of Yizkor comes from just one brief phrase in our code of Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch, section Orach Chaim, Siman 621, Saif 6, Nahagu lidor tzedakah bayom haKippurim be'ad hametim. It is our practice to pledge tzedakah on Yom Kippur on behalf of those who are no longer alive. And the Mapa, the commentary integrated into the text of the Shulchan Aruch, adds, Umazchiri nishmotehem, Dahametim gam kein yesh lahem kapara bayom hakippurim. It's also our practice to remember their souls. For those who are no longer alive, they too have atonement on our Day of Atonement. Our custom of Yizkor, the climax of our holiday services, all started with this halachic instruction to pledge tzedakah on behalf of those no longer alive, and to do so at one specific time of the year, on Yom Kippur. But Jewish custom is every bit as binding as Jewish law, and we all know that today it's our practice to say Yizkor, to remember those who we love who are no longer alive, and to do so in community with one another 4 times a year. We say Yizkor on the last day of Pesach, the second day of Shavuot, of course on Yom Kippur, and on Shmini Atzeret, the special festival that comes right at the conclusion of Sukkot. This robust practice, this 4 times yearly ritual of peak experience, all comes from just 6 words of Jewish legal code. And these 6 words don't even focus on remembrance. They focus on tzedakah. The mitzvah of tzedakah in Jewish tradition is an essential mitzvah. Now, I did not grow up in my childhood learning about this mitzvah and how important it was. I know that some of us here did grow up with parents who modeled for us the mitzvah of tzedakah, and there are others like me who came to learn about this mitzvah in our adulthood. The moment that I feel I truly understood what tzedakah was all about is when I learned that if there is a person who subsists entirely on tzedakah, if 100% of their income is receiving tzedakah, that person is just as obligated to give tzedakah as a person who works for a living, or a person who has a trust fund. At its core, tzedakah is about recognizing the wisdom contained in a verse of Psalms, L'Adonai ha'aretz u'melo'ah. The world and all it contains belongs to God. Giving is a holy act, a commandment that allows us to act in the image of God. For just as God's generosity sustains us, our generosity sustains others. So back to our essential instruction from Jewish law, our essential instruction that has given rise to our practice of Yizkor. It is our practice to pledge tzedakah on behalf of those no longer alive. We will read this instruction in our very own Sidur as we do our Yizkor service, within the service itself. Why do we make this pledge on behalf of our loved ones? In Jewish law, we have this concept called lo'eg larash, as some translate it, the slighting of the dead. What this means in practice is, for example, we can't study Torah in a cemetery. We can't carry tefillin into a cemetery. And the reason for this is that when a person is no longer alive, they can no longer do the mitzvot of studying Torah or wrapping tefillin. Thus, if we did so in their presence, it would be disrespectful. They wouldn't be able to join in. We have this concept that those who we love who are no longer alive still want to do mitzvot. So we have this practice on Yizkor of pledging tzedakah on behalf of those who are no longer alive. We have the chance to do a mitzvah for them, to give to a cause that is not just important to us, but to a cause that we know would be important to them. Now today on this Yizkor, as we connect to our memory of our loved ones, we have the opportunity to think, what causes did they care about? What ideals were important to them? And on this Yizkor, for this coming year, my pledge in honor of the memory of my dad will be to our religious school. My dad loved kids. He was a natural teacher, a natural coach. It brought him so much delight to show a young person, or a beginner really of any age, how to do something for the first time, and to stand back and watch as they caught on. Whenever I teach in our religious school, when I have the opportunity to guide our children through the fundamentals of Aleph Bet, when I can guide our children as they form a relationship to their own Jewish identity, I can feel my dad standing beside me, watching me teach, and feeling delight as I figure it out, as I find my own way to bring up the next generation. So this year, this Yizkor, it is my honor to pledge tzedakah to our Adat Shalom religious school in my dad's memory. As we all contemplate the words of Yizkor, as we all connect and reconnect to the memory of our loved ones who are no longer alive, may we make a pledge of tzedakah to help perpetuate ideals important to them. Through these deeds and through prayer and remembrance, may the souls of our loved ones be bound up in the bond of life. We rise now, we turn to page 330, and we begin our Yizkor service.